Good evening. There have been violent disturbances across the northwest this evening in both Manchester and Salford. Riot police have been in running battles with groups of youths. Shops have been set on fire, windows smashed, and there have been sporadic looting. Well, our reporter Arif Ansari is in Piccadilly in Manchester now. And Arif, we've had reports of trouble in various parts of the city. What's going on now where you are?
Well, Annabelle, this evening the violence and the trouble and the disorder in Manchester is worse than I was expecting. As I walked from the Manchester studios, the short walk to the city centre, I passed by a van which had been set on fire. As I walked down here, there were running battles between looters and the police, and shop after shop was smashed in and had been destroyed. For the latest on the situation in Manchester, here's Jill Dummigan.
Move away! Move away!
These were the scenes in Manchester tonight as mob rule took over the streets. Shops looted and set ablaze. The city centre, a no-go area. It started in the heart of the city in Market Street at around 6 o'clock. What you can see here is the Miss Selfridge's store ablaze. Several shops were then trashed and ransacked. Soon it began to spread as gangs of hooded youths rampaged through the city centre. By the time darkness fell, there were hundreds out on the street. Dozens of shops were looted. They took their time and went away with their arms full. Trams and buses simply stopped running, leaving those already in the city to make other arrangements. By nightfall, it seemed the only people out on the streets were young men and the police, many in riot gear. And that's how it's been since, no one quite knowing what's going to happen next.
Well, we believe that the trouble actually began in Salford earlier today. You and I were there, of course, Annabelle, witnessing at times some real flare-ups of violence. My cameraman was attacked. There were some nasty scenes. And as I was stood there, Annabelle, I saw shops being attacked and people very frightened.
Tension began building in Salford this afternoon. A crowd confronted police and threw stones. The troublemakers were dispersed as local people looked on.
It's not a police state, this. We're free to roam the streets, we can do what we want, it's a free country.
I've seen a lot of youths, about 16, 17, throwing stones, and it seemed most out of character for this estate.
Around the corner, the violence flared as shop windows were smashed and a nearby council building set on fire. My cameraman was attacked and Radio Manchester's radio car destroyed, but my colleagues were not seriously hurt.
I've been living in Salford for 4 years and I've never seen Salford like this. It's really weird and it's really scary.
One police officer warned me it was about to kick off as they closed key roads. But this evening, a digger has been stolen, presumably to cause further damage, and a supermarket set on fire.
Well, behind me, you might be able to work out the blue flashing lights. We've seen fire engines here. We've seen police cars going up and down the road. I saw police dogs barking, chasing people down the street. And right in front of me, police officers were hitting people down with their truncheons, trying to regain control of the street. Now, to put this in perspective, it is not violence at the same level as we've seen recently in London. Greater Manchester Police have described it as outbreaks of disorder, but there are some people living in Salford and Manchester tonight who will be feeling that it is worse than that.
Arif, thank you very much. Well, the people of South Liverpool woke to burnt cars and damaged buildings this morning after the worst night of disturbance there in a generation. Violence flared as hundreds of youths took to the streets of Toxteth for 6 hours last night. So far, though, tonight there's been no repeat of those scenes. Rachel Foley reports.
There were scenes not witnessed in Liverpool for a generation. Up to 200 youths with masks roamed through Toxteth for 6 hours last night, torching cars, attacking offices and damaging buildings.
I received a phone call saying your building's on fire. So at which point I thought we'd better come over and have a look.
I seen the flash, like a fire of the van, and basically the whole night was absolutely horrible.
At least 6 people were arrested and 2 police officers injured, though not seriously. The trouble was confined to a handful of streets in the south of the city. It didn't reach the scale seen in London or Birmingham.
Let me be clear right from the beginning that this disorder was caused by a small minority of young people intent on criminal activity. It does not reflect the vast majority of good young people on Merseyside, nor the communities from which they come.
This morning in Toxteth, the community began to clean up.
My husband's away working and I know that he's worried about me and he wants to return to Liverpool, so this is a kind of good way to show him that I'm fine.
The scars of last night's violence are still visible. Police say they'll do everything they can to prevent further damage. There are extra officers on the streets tonight and so far no major disturbances. Rachel Foley, BBC North West Tonight.
Well, tonight, due to the disturbances in Manchester, there are no trams or buses running in or out of the city. Deansgate is closed to traffic in both directions, but trains are thought to be running as normal. Well, some other news from the region now, and a children's animal park that had been operating without planning permission was